Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. And today we're going to be looking at a very old book, but one that I decided to purchase in November during Black Friday because it was on a massive sale on Vanishing Ink as an ebook, and that is essentially the predecessor of the previous book that I've reviewed, which is 52 Explorations, but now we are going to be looking at 52 Memories by Jack Parker. Personally, I think it is actually a better book than 52 Explorations, and I'm glad that I read it second, so I can't wait to tell you more about what you get in it and if this book is for you. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect, so I decided to stick around, which means you want to learn more about 52 Memories. So what is 52 Memories? 52 Memories is the first book that was released by Andi Gladwin and Jack Parker, or regarding Jack Parker's magic. And this one is a much more complete volume. It has card magic, it has kind of mentalism a bit in certain cases, and it also has coin work. So it's much more versatile and diverse than the other book, which is the newer book that we've reviewed previously. So before we dive into the content and everything that you get, I'll perform to you my favorite routine from the book, which is something that I'm actually going to start performing because I like it so much. So you could have a deck shuffled and mixed, and you would need 2 spectators. Now keep in mind I don't have 2 spectators, so I'm going to do the best that I can to work around with that. But you'd ask the spectators, what we're going to do is I'm going to try and read both of you. But who do you think between both of you is harder to read? Like has a bigger poker face or is harder to actually get a sense of what they're thinking? So the spectators would discuss, and let's say they say this spectator is harder to read, that one's easier to read. So you say, okay. So what we're gonna do with you is I'll go through the cards and you're just gonna touch one. So they're gonna go through and they're gonna say, let's say touch this one. So you say, perfect. Do you wanna touch another one, or is that one good? So let's say they say it's good. You say, perfect, take a look at it and please remember the card. It's important that you remember it for what's gonna come next, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave your card right there on the table and we're gonna get back to it in a second. What we're gonna do now with you is different. You're not gonna physically touch a card, you're just gonna think of a card. So think of any card in the deck, but don't say it out loud. Just think of it. They're gonna think of a card and you say, perfect. I'll see if my intuition leads me correctly because I'm getting a sense, look at me, okay. I'm getting a sense that this could be your card. So for the first time, because I wanna see if we got at least close to it, what was your card? Let's say they say the 2 of Hearts, literally can be any card, the 2 of Hearts. That's actually interesting. But before we get to you, let's continue with you because you have the easier one because your card was actually picked from the deck. So we're just going to take your card, the spectator can place it in, take the deck and actually shuffle it. So they're going to shuffle the card inside of the deck and say, now my job is going to be to find your card in the deck that you just shuffled. And the reason your card is easier to find is because you actually physically touched it. So maybe there's going to be a trace or there's going to be a difference in the card that's going to lead me to believe, which it's definitely this one. This one actually has a small taint of difference as to what it is. But just for the sake of it, what was your card? So they're going to answer, they're going to answer what the card was and say, oh, it wasn't the 3 of diamonds. Was it close? No? I was pretty sure that it would have been close because that's the kind of the reading that I got from you. You're actually harder to read than you are because you said that you thought of what? The 2 of Hearts? And well, actually on the table here is the 2 of Hearts. But you're actually harder to read because that was supposed to be the hard part, getting a thought of card on the table. But your card, I wasn't even able to find that in the deck. So can you just focus on your card? So your card wasn't the 3 of diamonds, no? What was it? The 6 of clubs. So if we just do this and a wave, it now becomes the 6 of clubs. So that is a routine of the book that I really, really like. Of course, the camera angle and whatever may have caught a glimpse of one thing or another, but it's not much of an issue because it is a foolproof effect, and in construction and everything, in real life performances, it flies by and it's great. I love this effect But now that you know one of the effects and the vibe of the book, let's talk about where you buy it, how much does it cost, and what do you get. So you can buy this at the moment exclusively from Vanishing Ink because the physical edition is out of print. You can only buy it through ebook, which is what I did, and the ebook is 35 US dollars, which is around 50-ish Canadian. What you get with your purchase is an ebook of the actual physical book. That's pretty obvious, but the content that you get is split in different categories. So you're going to start with an introduction and some acknowledgements. You're going to move into small packet tricks, so tricks with just a few cards, whether it's 4, 5, or 6, or 10. Small packets of cards. Then you're going to move into 2 sections that are tricks with 52 cards. Where you're going to find some of these effects, such as this one and a bunch of other ones. Then you're going to move into a section on moves and utility tools. So he's going to teach you some brilliant switches, some displays, some controls, some forces. Some of them are actually brilliant. One of them, I forgot the name, but it's like a specter touches a card, you place it in your hand, and as you flip the deck over to just place it on the table, you've switched the card, and it's so deceptive and so fantastic. I love that one. There's a variation on the convincing control and some other stuff as well. Then you're going to get some coin magic, and when I say coin magic, you're not necessarily going to learn the classic of coins that you may expect, like coins across or anything like that. You're going to learn how to blend coin magic in a card magic set, which is very distinct. Personally, not really my style or anything that I would do, but it could be a lot of your style. So you're going to learn how to blend coin magic with card magic and intertwine them. Then you're going to learn on the 21 card trick. He's going to give you some of his favorite variations. And lastly, you're going to learn on instant stooging, so mentalism routines or more impossibly looking routines that still have a payoff for the spectators that are being instant stooged. But you're going to learn on that as well, and then you're going to get some final words and some closing thoughts and effects, okay? So that is what you get with your book, and the book is around 250, close to 300 pages long, okay? So now that you know what you get, let's talk about difficulty. So what is the difficulty of most of the effects and moves? Most of what is here is not for beginners. It is, I would say, intermediate, slightly above a normal intermediate, slightly above that. Not to say that this is hard or beyond anyone's reach, it's just that it's not your usual simple effect. So you're not going to rely on dealing procedures or mathematical principles. You're going to rely on sleight of hand and spectator management to achieve a lot of these effects. And in some cases, you're going to rely yourself on some stacks or some short stacks of cards, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So overall, it's not the easiest effects to get, but if you've been in card magic for a while and you've been doing card magic, it's nothing too difficult. For example, the routine that I showed you, I read it once in the book, I fully understood it, and I was out trying it out at some of my work colleagues. So it's really not that difficult, but some of the routines will require a bit more practice. Now that we know about the difficulty, let's talk about practicality. And as always, the first thing that we talk about is carrying capacity. So what do you need to carry in order to do this? Well, you're going to need to carry a deck of cards. So that's pretty simple. And if you want to do the coin effect, some coins. Nothing much more than just a simple normal deck of cards. There's no gimmicks here, and a coin. However, regarding practicality, a lot of the effects, similarly to the first book, which is one of the aspects that I wasn't very fond of, is they use stacks. So not necessarily memorize stacks, but stacks of 10, 15, 20 cards, or half a deck is stacked in a specific order, and you have to maintain and whatnot. And that is not my favorite style personally, or my favorite type of magic to do when the deck is stacked, because yes, you can use it as an effect, but after that, you just move on with your other tricks, which is fine. But let's say you buy this book and your 3 favorite effects are the effects that use a 12 or 15 card stack. You're not necessarily going to be able to do them back to back, or if you want to do one at a table, one at another table, you're going to have to spend maybe 10, 20, or 30 seconds to set up the deck in order to perform, which is not that practical. But again, you have the effects. If you really like it, you can start your set with one of those effects, but then you'll have to reset it, okay? In terms of needing a table, not all of the effects need a table. Some of them work better on a table, but some of them don't necessarily need one. For example, the one that I did does require somewhat of a table for one of the moves, but you can replace the move with something else if you want and do it in the hands, and so forth for other effects. Some of them really need a table, but some of them can be hybridized and done in the hands, or you can find some circumventions to move around and not need a table. In terms of reset, the ones that use a stack will need a reset. The ones that don't are instant. For example, this one is instant reset, I'm good to go again. In terms of angles, most of routines have 360 degrees in angles as well. Now, where do you perform these effects? So where do these effects kind of flourish? What's nice about this book is a lot of the effects are both applicable for close-up and parlor or cabaret or stage, if that is your go-to. You can do it in those scenarios as well. They play well on the table and close-up, so you can find different places to do them. Of course, some of the ones that are better for cabaret or parlor will not work in a mix and mingle. You know, if you're dealing 5 hands of poker on literally a small cocktail table, it won't be as interesting in that scenario, and it's going to be more of a burden to perform it than not. Whereas the one that I did for you, that one you can perform easily in a mix and mingle or table hopping scenario, but also in a parlor or cabaret show without any problems. So there is intertwinity in terms of whether you can perform it close up, cabaret stage, etc. These effects will work pretty much anywhere as long as you have the necessary, requirements like a table or a table space or the amount of spectators that you need. Okay? So now that we've discussed all of that, let's get into the positives and negatives of 52 memories. As always, we are going to start with the negatives. So what are the negatives of 52 memories? One of them is the same one that I gave for 52 explorations, is that a lot of this material requires a stack of predetermined cards. So whether it's 10, 15, 5, 6, 7, the stacks are relatively big and thick, which means that it's not necessarily something you can set up on the fly. If the stacks were, for example, 2 or 3 cards or 4 cards, you could just cull them at the start of the performance while you're talking. That isn't a problem. I'm not talking about the effects that he says have 2 queens at the top, 2 queens at the bottom. I'm not talking about that. It's, for example, effects where it's like, okay, you're going to need to intertwine 15 cards in this way, have 5 of them at the top, 6 of them at the bottom, 3 of them with a break in the middle. Those type of effects are not my favorite, and they do require setups which aren't necessarily practical in table hopping scenarios or mix and mingle scenarios, because it takes a long time to reset, and once you do it, it is done, and you can't chain the effects together, which is usually one thing that I like, is when you get something that you can actually create like a mini 5-minute or 6-minute set that you can do at a table or at a parlor table in order to do them. And a lot of these effects will work, but some of the better ones that have stacks, you won't be able to chain them together, which to me is a negative, and it could be a negative for you. In terms of the positives, however, the rest of the effects are extremely well taught. They're really fun. This is, again, something I said for the other book. They're unique. They're unique approaches to effects. They're relatively within everyone's grasp if you've been into card magic for a while. The illustrations are great. The writing is great. The coherence of the explanations are great. The layout of the book, everything as you would expect from a Vanishing Ink book, is great. So this is everything that I have to say about 52 Memories. Would I recommend the book? I would say if you're looking for either this or 52 Explorations, I think that this one is better. I think that 52 Memories is a better book. I think it does have better material, better utility moves, and better ideas through them. If you were to compare my favorite effect from 52 Explorations and my favorite effect from 52 Memories, it would be a very close battle, but I still think that these effects are a bit more fleshed out and a bit more interesting for the layperson than 52 Explorations, whereas 52 Explorations, I think, is more of quick fire effects. So they're not to say that they're all quick fire. Most of them are, like my favorite one was the one with the jokers, where you take a joker, you place it in the middle, you say, what were your 2 cards? 2 of hearts, 3 of clubs, boom, the joker materializes into their 2 cards. That is my favorite effect from that book. But you can see how this one, my favorite effect, is playing on so much more. It has audience interaction, it has them talking within each other, it has different phases, etc. So overall, I think that 52 Memories is better. I do recommend it if you're into card magic and more of an interesting spin into card magic. I think you will enjoy this. I'm giving 52 Memories an 8.25 on 10. I hope that you enjoy the review. If you have any additional questions, leave them down below. If not, I'll see you all in my next review. Have a great one, and bye-bye.